Hi everyone, welcome back to another video in this RPG series. This video is part 3 to creating a playable character. In the last episode we prepared our character and its animations in Blender to import into Lumberyard. In this video we're going to be importing a character into Lumberyard and getting it to work with the W, A, S and D keys. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to prepare our textures for our character in Lumberyard. You'll remember in the last episode that when we were exporting our character, that when we clicked on each of these objects, that if the material down here changed, then you shouldn't go ahead and export each diffuse, normal, opacity, specular and gloss by clicking the drop down here for each of these. However, we do need to export each diffuse, normal, opacity, specular and gloss for each of these objects. So let's go ahead and do this. So you want to open up your Blender file for your character, and then you want to go ahead through each object here and export the diffuse, the normal, the opacity, the specular and the gloss. So to do this, you go, you click on the object, you then click on diffuse, and then you scroll down and you click on this little drop down here. You then want to say use file from current directory. There we go. And now it's saved. You now want to go ahead and click on the normal, do the same for that. Then the opacity, the specular, and the gloss. So if we open up the directory where this is saved, you will have noticed that the textures folder has been created. And if you open that, you'll notice that our textures have been exported for that object. So we now need to go ahead and do that for the other objects. So if we click on the bottoms and let's go ahead and do the same thing. You want to go ahead and do this for all of the objects that you have got. So I'm just going to quickly do this. We then want to do that for the eyelashes. So you'll notice for the eyelash object that we don't have an export function here. So we can just ignore that. So we can go on to the next object. So there's shoes. Then we can go ahead and do the same thing for the diffuse all the way down to the gloss. There we go, we've done that for the shoes, now we want to do that for the tops. And now the last one, the default. However, you'll notice for default we don't have an option to export it, so we can go ahead and ignore that. We have now finished everything to do with the textures in the Blender file. In the last episode, you will also remember me saying that if when you clicked each of these your material didn't change, then you can just go ahead and export the default. That is still correct, and the textures you exported from the default, that will still work for when we import it into Lumberyard. Okay, so we're now going to import our character with its animations into Lumberyard. So let's go ahead and do this. You can go ahead and save the Blender file, and now let's open up the Lumberyard Editor. Okay, so the editor has now opened. And now we're going to import our character into it, and along with its animations. So there are quite a few ways in how we can do this, but the way I'm going to be showing you is essentially where if we open the direction where we exported the character and its animations. Okay, so we go ahead and copy the textures folder, the idle animation, our normal man character animation, and our walking animation. Once you've done that, you go ahead and copy. You then want to navigate to the dev directory, and then you want to navigate to the name of your project, so RPG in my case, but whatever you named it for yours. Then the way you can save it anywhere in this directory, but where I like to save it is in the gem folder, the assets, the characters, and then I like to create a new character. So I'm just going to name mine main because this is the main character for our RPG game. Then open that direction and you can go ahead and paste the files we just copied. So we've now copied the files from the Blender directory and into the RPG game. So we now need to import this into Lumberyard. Okay, so now if we head over to Lumberyard, and then if we navigate inside the RPG directory inside the asset browser, or whatever you called your project, then you want to navigate to where you saved it. So in my case, gem, assets, character, main, and then you'll see here we've got our three Fbx files and our textures file. So we're going to start off with just the base character. So that's man C in my case, or whatever you named it. And now we can just double click on this. And then we get two menus opened. We get this file progress and another menu which will appear behind this, or in my case on a separate screen. However, I will show you in a second what that looks like. Once it's finished processing, you might have an error where the node name was changed to something else. If you click on it, it will give you more details. So the node name of what it was called in the Blender file is located there, and the new name it was given is shown below. You want to take note of what these two are. And in my case, I have this error twice. And so the same thing again, I want to take note of what both of these are. And then we can go ahead and click on OK. And then on the other window I was talking about earlier is, let me just drag it across. There we go. So this is the other window that opens when you import the character. So the first thing we want to do in the motions is to set the rotation here to do nothing. And then we can go ahead and close it here. Then we head over to actors. We click add another actor. We can then leave the name as that. And then we want to click on update materials. And then we can go ahead, and that's everything we can do on here. Then if we go ahead and click on meshes, we click add another mesh. We click update material. And now we can go ahead and click on update. And I'll give it a few seconds for it to load and update. Okay, so this is, okay, so you can just go ahead and click on OK, even though it says saving settings. There we go. We can now go ahead and close this. And then you can click discard, but it should have still saved. And if we click on the drop down next to the our man, our three files here have been created, so it should have all worked, even though it said about discarding the changes. I don't actually know why it was taking so long to load. I left that for ages, and I also tried off camera and left it for ages, and it just stuck on that. So clicking OK should get around it, and hopefully it shouldn't affect anything else. Okay, so now if we double click on the idle animation, and then wait for it to process, which looks like it has done, then we can set the facing direction to be do nothing. We can go click on add modifier. Then if we do compression settings, and you'll see here that it's set to 0.001, we want to set that just to be 0.0. And if you click on the bottom one, you will also notice it's set to 0.001. You want to set this to 0.0. Click enter. And then you want to go ahead and click on update. Okay, so it's just been stuck on saving settings. So I'm just going to hope that this has worked correctly. This is okay, so you can just go ahead and click on OK, even though it says saving settings. And click discard. We're going to have to hope that that worked and nothing will be affected in the future. Then we want to do the same for the walking. Double click that. We want to make sure it's set to do nothing. We want to then go and click on add modifier. Compression settings, change this to be 0.0, then do the same thing for here, 0.0, and then click on update, give it a few seconds. Yeah, it's not going to work. Yeah, so we can just go ahead and click on OK, and then close and discard. We can tell it's worked because if we double click on the walking and we click on the compression settings, it has been set to 0.0. Even though we discarded the settings, it still worked. Hopefully nothing will have been affected by that, so we can just carry on with this and nothing should have been affected. So we're now going to do the materials for our character. So first let's create a new entity. So create entity, let's give it a name of, I'm going to call my player. Then let's right click, create child entity. Now let's name this camera. And now let's create another child entity and I'm going to name it man. And now on the camera, if we click this, we want to go and add in a component. Let's search for camera. There we go. And the camera is a gem that we enabled in the first episode. We want to change the field of view to 60 degrees. Now if we click on the man, and then we do add component, and now we can add an actor. Okay, so now if we click on the three dots next to actor asset, we click on the drop down next to main, and now we click on man.fbx. Now if we click on OK, there we go, our character has imported. And this is a good sign because our character is facing in the Y direction. There we go, all lovely. So now let's apply the materials to it. So if we double click on the man.material, or whatever the name of your FBX is, the material editor will open. And as you can see, we've got 6 different boxes here for the objects in our character. So let's go ahead and add our textures to it. So let's start with the shoes. So if we click on shoes, then we head over to the textures map section. We can see we've got a diffuse, a specular, a detail, and that's it. So if we click on the three dots next to diffuse, we can navigate in the directory to the textures for this shoe one. So if we go to where we saved our character, so that's in the main and in the textures, then you want to navigate to what the name of your object's diffuse is called. So in my case, it was for the shoes. So it's man shoes diffuse, and then okay. So then you want to do the same for the specular, and specular there for me. So now if we move on to the next one, the bottom one. So if we click on the same thing again, and then navigate to what it's called. So mine's man bottom diffuse, and then the specular man bottom specular, and then okay. There we go. So we've done the bottom and the shoes. So now let's do the body. So if we do the same thing again, diffuse, man body diffuse, and then specular again, man body specular. And now let's just do the top. So if we click here, diffuse, so that's man top diffuse, and then man top specular. There you go. So you'll notice that the last two are the ones that when we started importing it failed to import and it got renamed. After looking at what we noted down from when we were importing our Fbx and what it told us it changed it to, I can't seem to find a similar object to match these two too. So what I'm going to go ahead and do and just close the material editor and see what our character looks like. So first save it by clicking on the save button. There we go, it's saved, just confirm it's, yep, all there. We can go ahead and close. There you go, our character has got its materials on it. However, there's a slight problem. Let's just bring the speed down to 0.1. From what I can tell, the only problem currently is that the character's eyes haven't loaded. And let's just make sure we can see, let's just move it up so we can see the feet. Everything else seems to be working lovely. It is just the character's eyes that is the problem. So let's go ahead and try and fix that. From analysing this, I can't seem to work out what bootmap 001 is and bootmap 002 is. Even from looking at the error messages that we got from when we first imported it, I just can't seem to work out from what it says the original name was and what it's changed to, what it actually links to, if that kind of makes sense. Okay, so I've been playing around, so I can't seem to get the textures for the eyes from the files we have exported from Blender, and I've gone back into Blender to the objects that we didn't export, so the eyelashes and the default, and it's still not giving me an option for me to export it. So I'm going to play around after this video, and once I've worked out exactly why it's not working, I'll create an update video to this. So I do apologise for that. I just can't seem to work out why that's not working and why we weren't getting an option to export it in Blender. If any of you are really good at Blender and you know why I wasn't getting an option for it to export, please let me know in the comments, as that would be really helpful. Thank you. So we can still proceed as the other options will still be the same. It's just the texture for the eyes isn't working, but we can get all the animations to work for this. Okay, so we're now going to open the animation editor. So to do this, we go Tools, Animation Editor, and then a menu of similar sorts will open. Okay, so if we open the actor, so our character, so we go File, Open Actor, navigate to it, click on the drop down and click on the emotion effect actor, and then click on OK. Okay, so if we go to motion sets, okay, so we want to create a motion set. So to do this, we click on the plus. Then we want to import our animations into this motion set. So we click on the motion set. Then we want to open it. We then want to navigate within the project directory to where we saved our animations. So I saved mine in the assets, the characters, in the main. And then if we click on the drop down to open up the emotions FX motion file below each of the Fbx animations, so we can open both of them by holding Control and then click on the emotions one for the idle animation and for the walking animation. We then can click OK. Okay, so now if we scroll down, yes, they've imported, and just to test their working, if we click on motions, then we double click on the idle. Oh, see the same thing. Okay, the walking works. It's just flipped, and then the idle is also, yeah, that's a problem. Okay, so I've just spent a lot of time off camera trying to find the solution to this problem, and I think I've found it. So if your animation is imported on the wrong axes, or it just doesn't look right, like for example, if like the leg is like coming out of the head, for example, then you're going to want to follow along with the next few minutes as we're going to fix that. However, if when you import it into the animation editor, everything's good, as in it's in the right orientation and it looks good, and then you're going to want to skip to the timestamp on the screen just here, because that's when we're going to be carrying on, like after we fix this problem. Okay, so I spent some time off the camera and I've kind of found the problem. So essentially the animation we're importing for our character is rotated the wrong way. We had already established this, but the problem was I couldn't find a way to rotate it, because every time I rotated it to the correct Lumberyard settings, it just ignored that and wouldn't rotate. I have tried multiple things, and that is the main reason why this video is late, because I've literally been spending all of my free time between now and when the last video came out trying to work out how this isn't working. In the past, I've imported loads and loads of characters and got them working. However, this is surprisingly, when I'm actually making a video, the first time it hasn't worked. So essentially, I've worked out how we're going to fix this, and I'm going to show you in a few seconds. But essentially, I've tested this with the wizard character that we did. If you remember, for the first video we ever uploaded to this channel was the one on how to create a character, a walking one, with Lumberyard. And in that video we used a wizard character. I went back to that folder and borrowed the Fbx and the animations, and I went through the same process for what we did for this character. And once I got to the end, it worked perfectly. It walked all the way around here, and it's just, for some reason, it is this character. However, no problem, I found a solution, and I'm going to show you that now. You might notice that the materials haven't loaded up on our building over there or on our character. This is because of a slight glitch within Lumberyard where the materials won't save when you close the editor, and I've reopened the editor multiple times, so that's the reason why, but we will go and ahead and apply it later. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix this problem. Okay, so let's fix it. So the first thing we're going to do is open up Mixamo. The reason we need to go back to Mixamo is because we're going to be exporting our character as one with its walking animation. I know this is not ideal, however, this is the only way that I've managed to get it to work. So this is what we're going to have to do. So if you head over to Mixamo, if you haven't created any characters since the last one in the last part series, you'll still have the same one loaded. So we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to do the walking one so we can search for that. And I'm going to go with that one. And now, when we get to this stage, we want to download with a skin. We want it to be 60 frames per second, and keyframe reduction can be none. You can then click download. Give it a few seconds to download. Okay, there we go. It has downloaded. Now save file. Once it's downloaded, you go ahead and save it in the RPG folder. I've gone ahead and saved mine within the assets directory within the characters and the main, and we would have created an anims folder. I went ahead and saved the walking one into there. So you'll remember that in part 2 we imported it into Blender and we did all the settings to get it to work. However, we're not going to be doing this now. We're just going to be importing this straight into the editor. This isn't what I'd normally do, because this is not like the best practice, as you should always import it into Blender and follow the steps that we did. However, for some reason this works, and I'm not entirely sure. However, yeah, this is what we're going to have to do. We're also going to have to do the same thing on Mixamo for the idle animation. So just go ahead and choose the one that you want. There we go, I can do that one. And then the same thing applies with skin, none, 60 frames per second, Fbx, and then download. And then you want to do the same thing again. So once it's downloaded, save it to the same folder as the walking in where you save the walking file. Give it a few seconds to download. There we go. So we can now go ahead, save, and then do the same thing again. we've just added 2 files to the anims folder, so the walking and the idle. So now let's head over to the Lumberyard Editor. So open it up. So we can now close Mixamo as we won't be coming back to that. And then open up the editor and then give it a few seconds to open up. So once the editor's open, you want to navigate to where we saved those 2 animations. So that was in main anims. There we go. So you'll notice that we have the idle and the walking. And if we hit the drop down next to it, it is just detected the E motion. However, we need to get the actor out of this Fbx because it also has the Fbx inside of it. So to do this, we're going to double click it and it's going to open up the Fbx Editor. Give it a few seconds to load. There we go. So now what we're going to do is head over to actor, add another actor. Then we're going to go, we can leave all those settings as it is. We can then go to physics. We can leave the physics as it is. The motion, we can leave it as this is. We might need to come back and rotate it. And then the meshes, that's fine. So we can go ahead and click on update. There you go. So once the little loading icons disappeared, you can go ahead and close. Because there's a slight glitch from what I've experienced. I might be wrong, so I do apologize if it is. However, once this is already finished processing. So yeah, just go ahead and close it. However, I might be wrong, it still might be processing. But from what I've found, closing it will still work. So now if you click on the drop down next to the Fbx, we'll now have, I just clicked on the DC material and the actor appeared. So that is what we want. So just to show this is working, we can drag our actor into the editor. There we go. The materials are not working exactly, but we can fix that later. And then just to show this works, if we go to the tools, the animation editor, then we go file, open actor. We select the one we just did. So that's in the main, that's in the anims, that's under walking, and then the actor. So if we go to motion set, we create a new one. We then click on it. Then we open up that animation from the anims folder, walking, and then we can select the walking one. Then we can click OK. Then if we go back to motion and if we double click it, it works. It works perfectly. So now we can apply this to the game. But let's go ahead and add the idle animation. So if we go to motion sets and then we can go and add, then you want to navigate to anims and then click on the drop down next to idle and then click on idle. There we go, and then go back to motion and double click idle. There we go. So now we've got our walking and our idle working. Okay, so at this point in time, we have fixed the animation if it was rotated on the wrong axis or it just didn't look right. Or if when you first imported it, it all worked fine, as in it was in the right orientation and it looked correct. So we're now all fixed and everything's ready. So we can now actually start the fun end bit. So this is where we're just going to essentially tie it all up in Amazon Lumberyard. So without further ado, let's carry on with that. Then we go file, open actor. We select the one we just did. So that's in the main, that's in the anims, that's under walking, and then the actor, and then OK, opens up the actor. So if we go to motion set, we create a new one. We then click on it, then we open up that animation from the anims folder, walking, and then we can select the walking one. Then we can click OK, and then we can go and add. Then you want to navigate to anims and then click on the drop down next to idle and then click on idle. Okay, so now if we open up the actor manager and then we select the motion extraction node, and then let's just set it to be, let's try the hips. Yes, there we go, that works. So now it is following the character. That's perfect, that's exactly what we want. Okay, so now we go back to the motions. Let's try idle. Yep, there we go, and then walking. Yep, perfect. Idle, walking, perfect. Okay, so we have a motion set, so now we need an anim graph. So let's make a new anim graph. So go anim graph, new, there we go, new anim graph. Okay, so we'll make a state machine like we did before. We can then give this the name of idle state. Okay, now if we double click on it, we can delete the entry node. We can then drag a new motion in. Then if we click it, we can name this one idle. We then want to give it a motion. The reason we're getting this error is because there's no motion set. When you set the motion set to be 0, there we go. So now if we double click it, select motion, there we go. So we now want to select our idle and then OK. We then want to set this as the entry state, so right click, set as entry state. Then we can head back to the root by clicking on here. We then want to make another state machine. We can then give it the name move state. Now if we enter this move state by double clicking, we can delete the entry node by right clicking, delete node. Okay, so we can add a motion. We can then give it a name walking. Then we can select the motion to walking and then OK. Then we can right click and click set as entry state. So now we can head back to the root. We can now connect these two up. So if we drag from the corner, and there we go. And then the same thing from here. There we go. So now if we select the top arrow, so now we can go to the parameter section. We can create add parameter. We can give it the name speed. And that is the only thing we will need from here. So we can go ahead and click create. This is the only parameter that we're going to be needing. We can then go ahead and click on make sure that's selected and go add condition. Then we want to make a parameter condition, so add condition. We want to select the speed parameter. So this essentially means that if the parameter is above the test value, which is 0, it will begin to walk. We then want to select the down arrow. Then we want to do add condition. Parameter condition, add condition. We then want to select the parameter of speed. We then want to set the parameter to be equal to 0, so equal to the test value. This will mean that it will go to the idle. So let's test this out. Yeah, so there you go. If we our character here is currently in the idle position. If we increase the speed, he will begin to walk, and then if we decrease the speed, he will stop and go back into idle. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Okay, so we now need to save it. So now we can go ahead and save this one. So we go File, Save As, navigate to where we saved the walking and the idle animation. Then we can give it a name, main character anim graph, and then save. We then want to go into motion sets. We want to rename it. We then want to give it the name of main character motion set, and then OK. We then want to save this again, so that's save. Navigate to where we saved the animations. And then we want to give it the same thing again, main character motion set, and then save. And then we're also going to save this as a workspace. And so to save it, we go File, Save Workspace As, OK. Give it a second to load. Navigate to where we saved the animations. And then we're going to give it a name, main character workspace, and then save. That's everything we're going to need here, so we can go ahead and close. We're going to just right click, we're going to do create entity. We're going to rename the entity to main character. We're going to create a child entity. We're going to call this camera. And then you want to create another child entity, and we're going to name it character. So now we want to click on the camera. Then we want to go add component and search for camera, and then select camera. This is a gem that we enabled in the first episode, I think, of this RPG series. We then want to change the field of view to be 60 degrees. There we go. We can now head over back to the character. We want to add an actor component. We then want to click on the three dots here and navigate to where we saved our actor. So yeah, that was walking and acting and OK. There we go. And there you go. The materials worked this time. Lovely. Perfect. It's all working. Okay, so make sure that again the character is selected. Add component, anim graph. Select the three dots. Navigate to where we saved it. So it would be in the anims, and then main character anim graph, and then OK. We then want to set the motion set. So same thing, anims, main character motion set, and then OK. We're then going to add another component, character physics. We don't need to edit any of the settings here. We're now going to add another one, a Lua Script. There we go. We also want to add another component of input bindings. Now we can go ahead and apply the Lua Scripts. In this video, we're going to be using two of the Lua Scripts from the sample project that you have when you install Lumberyard. So just go ahead and navigate to where it's installed. So sample project. We are then going to navigate to animation samples and simple jack locomotion. I'm going to be making a video in the next few weeks about properly how to make your own one of these. However, for the purpose of this, I'm going to be using their one. So we want to go ahead and copy this one. So go ahead and copy it. We're also going to go ahead and copy the input binding. So copy both of those. We're then going to go ahead and paste those two files into where we saved our character. So as gem, assets, character, main, and we just go ahead and paste both of them there. We can then rename the input bindings one to main player bindings. And then we can go rename the other file to simple underscore main player locomotion. There we go. So we can close this. We're going to have to make a few small changes to our Lua script that we just copied. However, it's not much. But as I said before, I'm going to be making a video properly on how to make our own Lua scripts. So for the input bindings, we're going to go down and click on the three dots. Then you want to navigate to where you saved it. And then you want to select the main player input binding and click OK. Okay, so we're now going to open the Lua Editor, so we can click on the curly brackets there. Give it a second to load. We first want to set the target to this one. We're then going to go ahead and open the Lua script, so go File, Open Lua Script. Navigate to where we saved it, so your project name, gem, assets, character, main, and then the simple main player locomotion Lua, and then click Open. Okay, so we now need to make a few changes. Let's just make this full screen. Okay, so the first thing we need to remove is we can get rid of the aim and the aim bus. We can get rid of the toggle lookup. And that's fine for that section. We can also get rid of the lookup values and the aim amount. We don't need the apply aim bit here. We don't need the aim here, so we can get rid of these two lines. We don't need this if statement here, so we can get rid of that. We also don't need this bit here. We don't need the turn speed here. And we also don't need this bit here, so we can get rid of this bit here. We can get rid of the turn speed as we don't need this bit here. We also don't need the aim one. We don't need this lookup value here. Or this one here. Just to confirm that we haven't missed anything, we can go Control F. Turn speed, find all, 1. That's line 181. Here we go. We can get rid of this bit here. And then just to confirm again that we haven't got anything, Control F, find all. Lovely. Couldn't find anything. That's it. Let's just make sure we haven't missed any looks. That's fine because that's a comment. Okay, cool, that's all done. We can now go ahead and save this file. We can now exit out of the editor. So for the Lua script here, we want to do the three dots and then choose the main player locomotion Lua script, and then we can click OK. Scroll down to the input one, click the 3 dots for the input, and then choose the input binding one, and then click OK for that. So now let's test this out. If we do Control G, oops, that was my fault. If we do Control G, okay, yeah, so it works. This is just the camera position. So let's just raise the camera up a bit. So let's select camera, and then let's raise that up a bit by selecting there. Raise that up to, let's bring it down. Let's just give it there for now. Select that and do Control G. There we go. So yeah, no, our character's working. It's just the following that's not working. So at least we fixed that now, and it is working pretty well with the ground, surprisingly. So yeah, no, there you go. So let's just now fix the camera not moving with it. I've just realised a massive mistake of why the camera is not working with the player. If we do Control Z to set the camera back to its original position. There we go. I completely forgot about this, so I apologise. If we click character, then if we scroll down to the Lua Scripts, and then we click on the camera entity, I've completely forgot to attach that. So if you click on the little target, and then you choose the camera, there we go. So now let's try that. Let's just deselect, there we go. Now let's Control G this to run the game. There we go. And it follows perfectly. Okay, so this is the end of this video and this 3-part video series within our RPG series. So yes, we're going to be creating a lot more videos for this RPG series, as well as introducing a few new different series that we thought might be interesting and helpful. And in the next episode or two, we're going to be fixing the problem where you can't walk. You're going to be fixing the problem where when you hold the W key and you turn the mouse, the character doesn't follow in that direction. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and fix that in the next video or two. And we're also going to be carrying on with this RPG series. We've got loads of ideas of what we're going to be doing. For example, adding enemies for this character to like fight against. Just loads more. And we've got a few surprises that we're going to be doing. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope this helped. And if it did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you liked it, please do consider subscribing. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.